Hello, I'm here on 111 Hicks Street on the 22nd floor, overlooking the East River, the Brooklyn Bridge. Today, I would like to discuss with you the importance of calmness. An agent that is calm is an agent that has your back. Being calm allows all the different parties whose emotions are running high. The seller, who always feels that his property is worth a ton more than someone is actually willing to pay for it, and the buyer, who feels that whatever they're paying, they're overpaying. Therefore, the agent is in the middle, making sure that all emotions are at an even keel. Everything is about negotiation. From the moment that this deal is starting and the agent, me, comes in, I'm negotiating just to actually get the listing. That's a negotiation. Once I get the listing and I bring in the potential buyers, I negotiate with the buyer to bring them to the price that the seller is asking for. And once that is accomplished, I negotiate with the seller to agree to give the contract to this particular buyer. And once both sides are on the same playing field, that's when all the fun starts. And I do the dance of the deal. The dance of the deal is when each party decides they want something done their way. The buyer wants to bring in the structural engineer once they get the contract. The seller doesn't care what the structural engineer finds. Nobody cares. The buyer just is looking out to get the best deal, and the seller is trying to keep as much of the profit of the sale for himself. Once the contracts are actually issued and the fun begins, that's where I learn to navigate this dance. I'm in different situations. We have situations where the buyer is frustrated because this property is an estate. And that means that the estate is at the mercy of the judge, waiting for the judge to stamp his approval that the seller, the executor of the estate, is allowed to sell, which is fine. But when the buyer gets frustrated and losing patience because his bank is only committing for a certain time and wants this to happen yesterday, I convey that to the seller and I have to negotiate with the seller, but then the seller has nothing, his hands are tied. He's at the mercy of his probate attorney. So I'm in the middle, again, navigating and negotiating this dance of the deal. I submit to the seller as much of the structural engineer's reports to show that it is a timely matter to get this house sold and that all repairs can be done so the house doesn't collapse or that the roof doesn't cave in. And my job is to make sure both sides are happy, that the seller feels he's not being pressured and that he has as much ammo as possible from me with which to give his attorney, with which to give the judge, so that the judge can sign off ASAP. And then I'm calming the seller down. Don't worry, everything is fine. We're all moving as fast as we can to get this sealed. There's another instance where the buyer feels that, hey, they want some credits. They found some pesticides or asbestos or holes in the roof. They want money off. The property didn't appraise for the value that it was sold and the value agreed. So, for instance, there's a $1.5 million property that the seller agreed to take that price, the buyer agreed to pay, everything was fine, everything was on the contract, signed, fully executed, and then when the appraisal came in, it was only appraised for 1.4. Buyer was a little at odds. What can he do? He already put 20% down, he doesn't have any more cash, so he says, Margla, get the price down, chisel it down another 100,000. So remember, this was already negotiated. We are already in contract. It's fully executed. Everyone signed. So now the negotiations start all over again. And I present to the seller, and the seller is, no way, I'm not going down 100K. Now I know that the buyer really, really wants the property. So I compromise. I turn to the buyer, I say, listen, if I can get the seller down 50,000, would you go ahead with it? And all of a sudden he's like, yes, I'll cough up another 50,000, because nobody wants to lose a property, a $1.5 million property for $50,000. That's 10%. That's crazy. I'm sorry, that's not 10%. That's like 0.5% or 5%. I'm sorry, my head is fried. For 5%, who's going to lose a property? And properties are so scarce that when someone finds something they actually like in the location they love, $50,000 is not going to break a deal. So I turn to my seller, I explain to him the circumstances, I show him the appraisal report, and I even advise my client to hire another appraisal, do it twice or even 3 times, so I could show the seller there's no way we can get this higher. So once the seller is in the deal, he has a buyer, he knows the buyer's going to close, 9 out of 10, the seller will not start from the beginning. He'll say, you know what, fine. 50,000, he'll compromise, he'll give up 50, they give in 50. So we chiseled down to 145. No biggie, all in a day's work. Thank you for engaging with me in Real Estate with Roumani. Tip number 11. Staying calm is key. And that is key to getting to the finish line and bringing both sides to the closing table and navigating this dance of the deal. What's always important to remember is that while negotiating for my clients, for both sides whose emotions are running high, I stay calm, stay focused, and know that at the end of the day, both sides want to end this. The buyer wants a property. The buyer might pay a little bit more than he was willing to. The seller wants to wrap this up and move on. So with that in mind, no matter what happens or what anger ensues or any verbiage that comes out of either side, I don't take it personally. I know that buying a home is emotional, and it's okay. I roll with the punches because I know we're going to be sitting at that closing table and everyone's going to be smiling and everyone is going to thank me. The seller will get the money and the buyer gets the keys.